Here we go. Welcome to Regenerative Revolution. We're on episode, 7 now, and session 3 with Isaiah Urth. And so we're here talking about his organization, UrthKynd. So he's talking about doing some urban gardening. And for the audience, you can see here on the screen, us above, and then below to the left is Isaiah's bio and a project description, which I updated last time with some of what we talked about last time. The purpose statement that we came up with, which is improve health outcomes and access to affordable food within historically underserved communities. I also put a vision statement on here that I kind of came up with based on what we had talked about. It says, if successful, we will increase employment and intergenerational wealth by providing regenerative jobs. We will improve healthy food access and choices and decrease degenerative and preventable diseases by providing education. We will also improve the natural environment by converting lawns into regenerative gardens. So that's just a draft. Isaiah can edit that in the future, but I wanted to get those outcomes that we listed into the vision. And then also the values. Consider the end results of everything we do, help people be healthier and happier, use regenerative farming practices, and honor diversity, accepting everyone. And I came up with these just as a draft. I will be giving my draft of all of the various things we come up with to Isaiah, and then he can edit that and use it as his business model or business plan to recruit more helpers, to do fundraising, that sort of thing. That's what we're here to do. So I'm going through this Regenerative Enterprise Design Workbook, which the audience can see on the right. So this includes the questions that I'm going to ask him, and I'm going to be taking notes in this document. Isaiah can't see this because I don't want him to be distracted by what I'm typing. I just want him to answer my question. But we can go down to where we're at right now. Let's see, we did an initial conversation. We just kind of got to know Isaiah and what he's up to. Then last time we talked about purpose and vision and came up with those purpose and vision statements. So today we're going to talk about value proposition. So what it is that he's actually offering, who his customers are, what they want, and how what he's offering meets what they want. So we're about to get started. Let's just start with a check-in. Isaiah, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Grateful. And happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I am doing pretty well. Excited to be getting going on this again. Looks like we might have one viewer in the audience. Hello, audience. So we're on Twitch right now. So we've got a chat room where our audience can interact with us. They can ask questions. There's also a question app underneath the video. With such a small audience, just feel free to type something into the chat room and I'll see it. But if we ever get a larger audience, we might use that Q&A app so that we can kind of organize all of the questions that people might have. And we can stop throughout this if we wanted to ask the audience a question, if we get stumped or just want their input or we're brainstorming, then we invite the audience to give us input. And like I said, you can just type into the chat. You also have conversations with each other if there's more than one person in the chat room. So that's what we're doing. So let's get started. So the first question I have for you, Isaiah, is who are your customers? Or participants or members or however, I use these words like customer segments. I use these businessy words. Some people are really triggered by them. If I use the word profit with some clients, they get really mad at me. But we should be familiar with the terms anyway. So customer segments are different kinds of customers. So you might have people who are helping with the garden, and then you might have people who are just getting some other benefit. So who are they and what are they doing?
Let's see, which one do you focus on first? I think strategically focusing on the members first. members, like I guess as far as volunteers,
Okay.
um, that's the most important part right now. And I suppose also forming a board of board members who can contribute, resources or help with fundraising, um, things like that. Even just having the resources of particular skill sets. Um, those are I think, the two critical things right now, um, because we want to do, tremendous outreach, and um, and also just getting started. We don't really have the resources to invest in, say, graphic design, web design, all the things that really establish you as a nonprofit. There was also some legal things. So my thinking is having those individuals on the team, whether it's volunteer member, board member, um, would help facilitate those things. And they're basically like investments, because people want to get behind the cause. They feel strongly about it enough to devote their time, which, is even worth more than money, because
Right.
yeah, it's just time, it's they become vested in something that they care about. And those are the kind of people that ultimately I would love to work with, is like, hey, we're starting from the bottom together, open source, you can jump in and jump out and get involved with projects as you see fit. And, and it's just pretty casual. And so setting up the digital aspect to facilitate those things is another, it's like having that skill set as well. So, yeah.
Okay. So you've got the people who are like working in the organization, and in a way, since you're dealing with a nonprofit, it's not as cut and dry as like a for-profit company where you have your, employees and then you have your customers. With a nonprofit, it tends to be a little bit more complicated because you have people who are like volunteering and also getting benefits from the organization. So that distinction is not as clear. So you might see your volunteers as a kind of customer in this respect. But then is there another class of people who are maybe not as involved but receiving benefits from this?
Yeah, I would say just the immediate community, like just starting out, it would be heavily focused on the immediate, like 3 mile vicinity.
Okay, so these are people who live uh, in the area, and how are they benefiting?
Um, I see them benefiting by learning regenerative methods, regenerative agriculture, um, learning the benefits of growing their own food, saving money, um, getting increased exercise, um, community gardening. You can be socially distanced and be safe. So um, also having an abundance of food, and learning about health, and then just getting involved in a really good cause that could last generations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Starting something that could end up a lot bigger. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So currently, there are these people who could be volunteers, but they're not yet, right? So I don't know if you are thinking about a particular, physical area that you're wanting to start this in, or you have some garden spaces already going. So if you just think about those areas where you already have these gardens in, and who's in that area maybe already has volunteered with you or is kind of a potential, first person. What do you think they are currently like paying attention to? What do they care about, that maybe you could kind of get their attention by waving your arms in front of like what they're already interested in, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this day and age, everybody is kind of a foodie. A
Uh-huh.
lot now are appreciating food, but and with that, a lot of people are also becoming more aware of what's in their food and whether or not it's local and how it was grown. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Also, on everyone's radar these days, is health and wellness. I think wellness in the Google search is like ranking top, top 5% or something like that in
Mm-hmm.
the world or something,
Mm-hmm.
maybe in the U.S. But everyone's concerned with wellness and well-being and the immune system and health.
Mm-hmm.
So especially in light of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
so so that's definitely um, one of the greatest things about growing your own food is increasing your health and your immune system.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
through the
Uh-huh.
exercise, I mean, even cooking, I think, is
Yeah.
very therapeutic. So.
Okay, so I mean, getting really specific on this, like think about actual people. What are they currently doing and paying attention to in that realm? Like, are they reading certain magazines? Are they going certain places?
Um, I think, well, because so much is digital now, they are likely searching for particular terms, on Google or on Facebook or on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
They're watching those videos. They're probably commenting. They are Instagram is probably very heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and locally, if they're gardening groups and things like that, um, they're probably involved with things like with efforts like that.
Okay. Involved with other gardening efforts. What are some of the terms you think they might be searching for?
Terms,
Mm-hmm.
probably like how to start a garden, um, what to plant in Los Angeles. Uh, um, Also, the food drives. A lot of the food banks now are having like food drives where the lines are just like wrapped around the block, and even some places we've seen like a mile long. And I've seen this article recently. It said 30 million Americans last month were without food, didn't have enough to eat. They did this huge poll. So I think food security.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. Maybe food sovereignty. People are searching that term. It's kind of a
Mm.
advanced term for people who are just looking. But that's ultimately, I'd like to network with people who are just getting into gardening,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or people who are even established in regenerative gardening, because I think a lot of times when people are just trying to learn how to garden and get established, they can become distracted by the big brands who are also advertising those keywords
Mm-hmm.
that are not always the healthiest, like Monsanto and the other ones that have a lot of chemicals that are bad for us. And I see it all the time when you go into gardening stores. If somebody's asking for advice, hey, I'm trying to do a garden, what do I do? And the first thing they're directed to is like Miracle Grow instead of
Mm-hmm.
a natural organic compost, because there's just a disconnect in
Mm-hmm.
the information. And I think, okay, Miracle Grow isn't totally bad all the time, if you're just getting started and if that's all you have, or if that's your budgetary constraint or whatever. I still think organic, is cheaper in the,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it leads you down the wrong road, you
Sure.
know.
Okay, cool. And then what about the community, um, other people in the larger community? What do you think they're paying attention to? I mean, like pop culture. Like, what are they actually paying attention to right now?
Well, everybody's paying attention to I think the election to some extent,
Mm-hmm.
to politics to some degree, because it's just, you can't get away from it. Equality, um, and the uh, disparities in um, racial,
Mm-hmm.
racial justice,
Mm-hmm.
and especially the disparities in justice, but in the disparities in food, in wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a core thing that we really want to address,
Mm-hmm.
wellness
Yeah.
disparities.
I
Like
mean,
that's what it comes down to.
in your area in particular, is there a lot of attention on anything in particular? Like are people paying attention to Black Lives Matter, or are there local issues that people are paying a lot of attention to, like homelessness?
Absolutely, it's definitely those are two top ones.
Mm-hmm.
Protests, Black Lives Matter, social justice is huge right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're all aware sort of those disparities in the food system, so they just equally correlate. You know, but even more so. Um, so I think about South LA and Southern
Mm-hmm.
California a lot, but I also think about Southern Oregon too, because
Mm-hmm.
that's a community that I do, I feel like I'm still a part of. And so I noticed that there's there's the wealth gap, there's economic disparities as well in Oregon. Um, there's a huge disconnect with food and having food security,
Mm-hmm.
for people who it's just cost prohibitive
Mm-hmm.
to eat healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen those wellness disparities. So I just see it like nationwide. This is a nationwide thing,
Sure.
it's hurting right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So we've got some lists of some things that you might want to pay attention to when you go out looking for members or um, customers. You might consider using keywords or linking what you're doing to certain political issues. Because if they're already searching for those things, or they're more likely to pay attention to an article that uses these keywords, then that's how you can get people's attention.
It's such a huge spectrum, and I'd love to do further research on that and really narrow it down, because as the website, I'm hoping the next couple of weeks it's complete. I want to send you if possible, I'd love to, if you could give me input on it.
Mm-hmm.
I could do a mock-up of what
Yeah.
we're working on
Mm-hmm.
now. But I'd love to design like a little funnel, that brings people in to the contact me form to start establishing these lists of the different working groups,
Mm-hmm.
because I really want to see this thing do well,
Mm-hmm.
and that would help tremendously to do this keyword research. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. So next question: what are the pains that you're trying to alleviate?
Um, the biggest pain is definitely the wellness disparity issue. Um, and that encompasses a lot of things, but food is really the root cause of it, and
Mm-hmm.
food security is really the root cause uh, of wellness disparity. But really, to accomplish an end to the wellness disparity, that's like trying to accomplish an end to the wealth gap, and in all the other matters with racial justice and things like that we're seeing in social justice in the moment, is that it can't just really happen. You really need
Mm-hmm.
government involvement. You need to get policy
Mm-hmm.
change going to be the root cause of it, because there's so many policies right now that I think prohibit. They're more in favor of, say, commercial development than they are of, urban agriculture and urban farming, and more ecological things. Although there are some really great programs out there, that allow you to use, for example, in LA, there's a zone, I can't remember the exact name, but there's like a particular zone where if the land is used for urban agriculture, there's like a tax savings on the
Mm-hmm.
property tax. So that's something I'm really looking into.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the ultimate pain is the wellness disparity, which is facilitated by, I think, a lot of times policy.
Okay. So, yeah. I mean that is one thing that I'm guessing that the people in these neighborhoods aren't necessarily paying a whole lot of attention to that. Like, what pains do you think they're experiencing on a day-to-day basis that you could be addressing?
Um, to some extent, okay, within a 3 mile radius, we have people who are, probably doing fairly well according to, the statistics and the socioeconomical factors. But on the other end, there's, a lot more poverty as we go down, more into South Central, into downtown. There's tremendous homelessness. There's so many food banks. So everyone, to some extent, is struggling with food access, because as we saw when the pandemic first started, we had lines outside the grocery store. You couldn't buy, a large family couldn't even really buy enough food
Mm-hmm.
to get by unless they had something stored up. Then they were going to food banks,
Mm-hmm.
because you could only buy two of whatever item, and there was all this hoarding going on.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I think you see food shocks like that and ripples in the food system and in the economy like we're seeing, everyone to some degree is struggling with food access. It becomes really expensive to eat at the level that we need to eat to have regenerative, bodies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so.
Yeah, so it's kind of a lack of resiliency in the system,
Yeah,
I'd say,
exactly.
in that. Um, yeah, so I mean, you're saying that socioeconomically, the people in this particular area are doing fairly well, but there's a lot of poverty nearby. So maybe the pain that they're seeing, that they're experiencing, is seeing poverty in their communities, right?
And the homeless rate over the last just 5 years has really, I don't know the exact rate, but it's skyrocketed, and it continues to, as the
Mm-hmm.
economy, people are getting evicted and losing
Yeah,
their business, and all
yeah,
that.
I've definitely heard about the homeless situation in LA a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and so, okay, yeah, I think that's good. So what kind of desires do you think they have that you could fulfill?
Mm. Everyone deep down desires wellness and to feel good and to have energy, and when we look at like the health disparities affecting like Black and brown communities as
Mm-hmm.
compared to more well-off, communities, Caucasian primarily, in California, just in this area that I'm in, and also in the Delta, and in Oregon. When we see the wealth gap, people living in poverty um, versus people who are living in, doing actually a lot better, um, and generational poverty. There's this consistent thing of diabetes and heart attack and cancer, and
Mm-hmm.
all these, the top five.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, what I'm learning as far as health coaching and in terms of holistic health, as I study more and just, you know, is that a lot of those can be prevented early on with, eating a, a diet that's
Mm-hmm.
regenerative,
Yeah.
and so I think everyone deep down really desires that. They just don't. Some people just don't really know it.
Right. So that's kind of what I want to get at here, because a lot of people, like, they see their pains more than they see the potential often.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, I'm so tired. But if you've never actually experienced like being on a clean diet before and what that feels like, then it's hard to imagine what it would be like to not be tired. And so you might not even know what exactly you desire.
Get
Uh,
used to it.
yeah. So, I'm wondering what it is that they are desiring that you could kind of hook into, that they can actually imagine what it would be like, that might kind of lead them down that path.
Yeah, it's going to take a really driving the message that food is medicine, and driving the message that, hey, food is medicine, it's also freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, I think everyone could save a lot of money knowing that, if their food was growing right outside their back door, right in their backyard or in their neighbor's backyard or in
Yeah.
a community.
Yeah.
So
Saving money is a big one.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of people now are concerned about, and I saw a report that said in, I think, 30 to 60 years, I can't remember, um, we only have like that much soil left.
Mm-hmm.
Britain as well, like they're running out of soil. There won't be any farmable soil in X amount of time. It was
Yeah.
like within a couple generations or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's alarming for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, we can change that course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so saving money, I think, is a big one. I'm just trying to come up with some kind of hook on people as far as like eating more vegetables, because that's a tough one. Because people might say, oh, I want to be healthier, but like the thought of actually growing and eating more vegetables is daunting to some people. And so I'm wondering if there's some aspect of like being a part of something, or
Yeah.
getting support, or even like being trendy. Like people will sometimes try new things just to
Mhm.
like, try a new trend or something. So yeah, I'm wondering, thinking about the people in your neighborhood in particular, like what kind of desire might they have to participate in something that might actually drive them to, um, do more vegetables.
Well, there's definitely, I mean, there's connecting now. Connection is really big, I think, because we're, I think, becoming a lot more disconnected. Um, so connecting around a positive movement. Um, as far as eating vegetables, that's hard, to convince people. But
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times people have never really tasted a truly fresh vegetable.
Mm.
It's really rare. I can still remember, my first time having an organically grown carrot, like straight out of the ground that I grew.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was just, everything was different. And so as,
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself definitely a foodie, and I'm interested in, all cultures and all foods, and I love to cook. And I'm in love with spices and plants and tastes and smells and
Mm-hmm.
things. So for me, that, that's no problem, because I love to, eat salads and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Convincing others is hard, but even
Yeah.
if you don't eat it, you can donate it, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you could probably create some buzz around like these are the best vegetables you can get. Like these are better than you'll find at the grocery store. You got to try this.
Hmm.
Something like that. Um, do the people in your area care about being like fancy or gourmet?
I would say there's definitely that aspect. Yeah, it just depends. It really depends, because what we're seeing a lot of gentrification now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and with that, we're also seeing like displacement, and then with the economy and the real estate, people can't pay mortgages and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So there's a lot of shifting. um,
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if that could create pushback then. So I'm really helping you work on your messaging here. That do you want to message this as come help us grow this food, because then you can have the most gourmet meals for free, or would the word gourmet actually turn people off because it reminds them of the gentrification that's been coming into their neighborhood and why their rent is higher all of a sudden?
no, I mean, because I think everyone still has that standard, to want to have the best and put the best in their body that they possibly can. But I think that a lot of times, like what I hear from people who push back on organic or even, beyond organic food, is that it costs too much. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times, even when you look at uh, Yeah, I mean, even when you kind of go to the places that kind of, I think, have the second grade organic,
Hmm.
it's still, tremendously expensive. So a lot of people say, hey, it's just too much, and they don't understand. They haven't seen the studies that say people who eat an organic diet tend to get. They did this huge study, I think it was like they tend to get cancer far less, like 30%, at a
Hmm.
30% less rate than people who don't.
Hmm.
And that's probably an all-encompassing thing. There's probably a whole lot more to that study. And organic, that standard is shifting, I think, every day, as corporate interests are changing those laws.
Yeah.
But people just don't understand, the wellness, how it correlates to wellness. And I think
Hmm.
we can make that uh, we can make that affordable for everybody,
Hmm.
because it's regenerative. I think growing organic and growing regeneratively is actually a lot cheaper. So then the term gourmet becomes the standard. Like,
Hmm.
organic should never be more expensive than
Yeah.
non.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be more expensive to eat a better diet, a more healthier diet,
Yeah.
free of
Yeah.
pesticides and
Yeah.
carcinogens.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of talked about that before, how, doing things the old fashioned way should be cheaper. It's just that our system um, has favored this, chemical agriculture so much, and it's all subsidized so much that you end up, sorry, just a second, that you end up with this kind of perverted economics, freakonomics of things that should be more expensive being less expensive.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
then,
if you grow it yourself, then yeah, it should be less expensive. Again, like you look up, you search, how to grow regeneratively. The first search terms you're going to come up with is companies wanting your money. So they're going to be like, oh, buy this fish emulsion, buy that expensive, worm casting tea stuff, and you think, oh, this is so expensive. No, like pull out your weeds and throw them on the ground.
yeah,
That's all you
it's,
have to do. Like it's not that hard.
and a lot of times, uh, oh, you said something that gave me a, I'll probably think about it. But you said something, and then I was gonna.
Oh, okay, okay, that's cool. Okay, I want to keep it moving, or you were going to run out of time. Okay. I was talking about what they desire. So a key part of that is how they want to feel. Like what emotions and sensations do they want to feel?
Mm. Well, there. I mean, I think, with a lot of things being shut down now, a lot of people now are looking more towards nature
Hmm.
and having that connection, because a lot of times
Hmm.
the parks, like the national parks and the state parks, are still open. Um, but unfortunately, I think a lot of the farms now, even the U-Picks and the farm tours, even as you drive outside of LA, are shut down or closed, or have very limited access. So I
Hmm.
think, connecting the people who want to feel that connection again with nature.
Hmm.
I know whenever I walk through the botanical gardens, or go with my family or my children, everyone feels this energy, this like zen, like it's just calming.
Hmm.
You can just slow down and not worry about anything. You can't hear the traffic. All you really hear is nature. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's like walking through the forest. So that is a tremendous feeling for me. You put a bunch of plants, kind of surrounded by concrete, but you take pots and you,
Hmm.
get some compost and you fill them up. You got plants everywhere, and it just changes the whole energy, the whole landscape of it. So, yeah, I think everyone to some degree wants to feel that.
Yeah, and I would be a little specific with that. I just added so connected to nature through growing and eating regenerative food or something like that. Just because you can be connected to nature, going on a walk through the woods. That's one way to be connected to nature. But I think what you're talking about is more about like having your hands in the dirt, or like having a connection to a carrot,
Yeah,
something like that.
absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So from that, what's the promise that you're making to your members that you're going to deliver them something? you're going to help them feel this way?
Promise, that's tough. That's a tough one. So feel better.
Mm-hmm.
The promise is that they will be better. Even because I think sometimes even if you are you're becoming better, you're not feeling better yet. You know, I mean, eating one salad, you may not always feel better, but when you open your palate and your mind to new things, and you kind of get a little education on it, it gives it more meaning. Because a lot of people, I know just a lot of people do not really eat or like vegetables, or maybe they only like two.
Mm-hmm.
So opening people up more to that, expanding horizons,
Mm-hmm.
feel better or to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the mental aspect, because there's so much more stress nowadays, than there was a year ago. So the mental aspect is really huge. Mental health and mental awareness, mental health awareness, regenerative mental health is actually really, really powerful in itself as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like that. It's really powerful saying that they'll be better. At the same time, like those words in particular can be easily kind of misunderstood. I don't know if it's clear enough.
Mm-hmm.
But
Be regenerative.
it's pretty broad, but it's true. Like you're helping them physically and mentally. Um, you're helping them in a I mean, you could just like explain all of that. Um, yeah. Okay. I'll leave it for now. Maybe we'll come up with something.
Yeah, the words are always hard for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Better when I can sit and really think and meditate on it, and then But yeah, that whole wellness, it really all goes back to
Mm-hmm.
wellness. At least for me, like the whole process from arranging the garden, putting everything in, growing it, harvesting it, cooking it, eating it, sharing it. Like, to me, that's wellness. It's a huge part of it. You get exercise, your mental, your physical, everything. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to find some words for you there, like holistic wellness, but maybe a little bit less pretentious. Something like that. Um, uh,
health,
do what?
regenerative health.
Regenerative
I mean,
health.
because really all of those activities are, I think at any given time, we are making decisions that are good for our health, our cells. It really comes down to cell damage or cell repair at any given moment. And um, that's what we eat, that's what we drink, that's a lot of times when we eat. There's studies, with, for example, intermittent fasting, the studies behind that, fascinating ketogenic diets, fascinating studies behind that. And but every step of the process with regenerative food and regenerative um, gardening, and is really is a positive thing for your cells. There's really nothing negative about it. It's when we start adding the chemicals, things like that, that it actually becomes degenerative.
Mm-hmm.
It's regenerative for us, for the earth, everything. So.
Okay, cool. Okay, so moving on to the next question. This is another one that's, worded with the business language, but we can adjust it. So what products are you planning to sell in the next year? What are you actually going to offer your community members, saying, "Here, take this"? What is it?
I'm struggling right now with how to make this, and I say this kind of loosely because it's a nonprofit, but profitable,
Mm-hmm.
or at least to an extent regenerative.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know the donations, as a nonprofit, I'm just learning this,
Mm-hmm.
should only account for a certain percentage of your fundraising, your existence, So ways of becoming regenerative would be, I guess, setting up offering classes that people can donate for, um, finding perhaps ways of, if we do canned peaches, for example, and we learn about how to can peaches and make jams and jellies and stuff, can we sell those products? Finding, ways to be compliant in selling or donating those. Um, oh, um, and also just some things that I can do and teach others, I think, is how to offer consultations. So perhaps, as we gain some traction with some gardens, I'm hoping that we can, maybe get some like clients who want to donate in exchange for garden consultation, setting it up, sourcing all the material, and education, on a larger scale or even on a smaller scale.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
in this context, I mean, we're talking about your offerings. So it could just be stuff that you're putting out there. You want people to consume it, whether it's you're just asking for donations with it or whatever, what else are you wanting to offer, like online content or volunteer opportunities? And this is within the next year, so ASAP.
Oh, online content, um, that that that's something I really want to get into. I'm still learning, even though I mean I have some experience in tech for many years. The digital and the online stuff and recording the thing, all of those things, they're just so new to me, and I can only learn so much at a time. So yeah, that's going back to the volunteers, finding people locally here in LA who can help facilitate that, because I know, there's a lot of people who are working in Hollywood, for example, that you know have lost their jobs now because they've had to slow down all the projects and push all the movies. So I'm kind of hoping maybe there's some volunteers out there that I can find who can help us get this sort of thing going. Because one thing I really want to do is offer like an introductory class in, so I'm really interested in the CBD hemp, because not only for the CBD, but the stalks, I think there's like 3 different types of fibers that can be made from that are really strong. They can be used to make clothing. So educating people on that, but also, of course, the food as well. And then the healthcare, the health, and the health and the wellness, and explaining it kind of down to a little, condensing it down into kind of a science and giving an introduction on health and wellness, and eventually, how to read certain labs and things like that. Because I'm really interested in health coaching and that whole national certification that they offer. Um, so yeah, educating people on that opportunity, and sort of, one day, uh, I have the curriculum like kind of drawn out as far as every chapter, and I think it comes down to like 10 hours for the whole like course. But that's my ultimate sort of goal, is to be able to offer this kind of like certification, regenerative health certification advocate course. Um, but yeah, filming this is a whole nother sort of thing, getting the right lighting, the right equipment, the editing, because I'd love for it to just look professional, because I feel like the content is just, it's worth a lot. Like, I've invested a lot in this education, courses and things like that over the last 2 years. And so it's just like all of that. And it's it does require one-on-one and Q&A, and I'm hoping to get sponsors that can sponsor, labs on certain, people who want to volunteer to show and establish actual case studies on how regenerative health actually works. That's that is one of my that's one of my greatest sort of aspirations. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So sponsorships in this context is a product. It's something that you would be selling, right? You're trying to get people to give you money for sponsorships. So I put that down. Regenerative health course, volunteers for creating online content. What about volunteers for gardening? Volunteer opportunities.
Volunteers, as far as I'm sorry, volunteers as far as
Gardening.
like, oh, finding volunteers to help me establish gardens or to
Yeah.
help. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think it's really useful for you to think of this in a business context as a product. Like when you're recruiting a volunteer, you are selling them the product of a volunteer opportunity, and actually showing them this as if you're trying to sell them a package, or else they don't know what they're getting into, like this
Right.
is what I have, you take it. It's
Right.
the same process. It seems different, but it's actually the same process. You still have to explain it in copy. You still have to like advertise it, and you still have to do the sale. You have to close it to actually get the person to sign up to show up. So thinking about it in that way makes sure that you do all of the steps of the process and aren't just kind of yelling at people, oh yeah, hey, come volunteer with me, because they don't know how to follow up with that,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. 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 Oh, the follow up. That's something that I'd love to cover with you. I don't know if you use like a CRM or, but yeah, the constant bombardment of knowledge and information, and then you connect with this
Mm-hmm.
person who connects you to this person, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you, because I came from a very narrow background. I was in tech for 20 years, and
Mm-hmm.
you juggle a lot of different projects and you juggle contact with a lot of different people,
Mm-hmm.
but that's all, you're at your desk all day long.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, primarily I just used Outlook for everything. I put everything down to the minute on a calendar.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit different, transitioning to nonprofit, and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, it's similar. Like, you could use a CRM. I imagine you'd have a lot of contact with people, though, that's not over email. I use a CRM in my email. It's called Streak. It's an extension for Gmail.
hmm,
And that lets me basically just create a spreadsheet out of my emails. So I can just put the emails in the spreadsheet,
interesting.
and so I can like move them through the spreadsheet of like into like the introduction, the contact, the sign up, completion. Like I could create columns, and then like move a person through by tracking that email thread,
Hmm.
if that
Hmm.
makes sense. But
Yeah.
I mean, I use that for, booking rooms for the community center that I ran.
Cool.
But, if you're having a lot of contact with people over the phone or in person, that might, you'd have to sit down and like enter all of that. So I don't know if there might be a better thing to use for that. Maybe something that you could use on your phone, although you can use Gmail on your phone. Yeah, but I don't know. There might be something that's a little bit easier as an app. You might want to
Yeah.
look that up, like CRM app.
I've relied a lot on calendar and notes. So, like, I might speak with somebody who's interested in donating seeds, for example, um, and or maybe somebody who's interested in donating. One gentleman had his own composting uh, operation in his backyard, um, but it might be like, we're really busy right now. Contact me in a month. So I'll put in the calendar, our conversation,
Mm-hmm.
contact in a month. This is what we spoke about, and so I don't forget. And then usually I also have my notes in, it's a notes app with Mac, and it's on the phone. So I'll create a note, and then like a folder
Mm-hmm.
for just the nonprofit or just
Mm-hmm.
the projects, and then
Mm-hmm.
like, so. But
Yeah.
I'm always looking to streamline.
Yeah. I mean, to an extent, use what works. Like, you know, get getting all of this like fancy CRM stuff set up when you're only dealing with a dozen people. Like you can get a little ahead of yourself. I've definitely done that where I set up this whole system, but then it ended up, by the time I actually got enough people to track it, didn't work anymore. So
Yeah.
just kind of building it out as you need it, I think is a good strategy. Um, anyway, let's see. Okay. So we have a list of products here. But it's a long list. We got classes by donations, like food products, consultations, online content, volunteering to create the online content, volunteering to garden, regenerative health course, sponsorships. That's a lot of things. So I'm wanting to know, what are you planning on doing first?
It's a lot to juggle.
Yeah.
Look, the way that I'm thinking about attacking all of those at once is to first sort of build this regenerative army of people who want to contribute their time,
Mm-hmm.
and breaking what it's gonna take to facilitate each one of those, breaking those down into teams and finding teams for each one of those. So it could be teams of two, hey, we need a graphic designer, we need, two people to head up the team,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of break it down into those working groups,
Mm-hmm.
so that then it's like, hey, team, we need X, Y, and Z. We shoot it off to that email group. And it works sort of like a corporation esque, and that's kind of how I've seen other nonprofits work, like the NAACP, the cooperative gardens,
Mm-hmm.
um, and but they're on a national level. And I think breaking this down into just a 10-mile radius, let's say 10-mile radius,
Mm-hmm.
there's people of every walks of life. So if we need help, it's, hey, here's the outline for the health course.
Mm-hmm.
This outline eventually is going to go into the actual video. Let's work together on the content so that it's vetted by doctors. Okay, we need a medical working group
Mm-hmm.
with doctors and nurses who are interested in regenerative practices and ending the wellness gap, the wellness disparities that we see, in our, because they see it every single day. And the
Mm-hmm.
doctors and nurses that I've spoken with are just like, yeah, this makes sense,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um, yeah. And so
Okay.
we go after all of those at once.
Okay.
Is that too ambitious?
Well, I mean, my experience in recruiting an army is that it's easy to get quite a few people excited, but you might be able to get 100 people to show up to your first meeting, but of those 100 people, two of them will actually follow up and do something.
Right.
So, you
What are
know,
the why,
it's hard. Sorry, what?
but what are the barriers? Why aren't the other 98,
They're busy. I'm busy, and because you don't have a clear enough um, steps for them to take. Typically, people will have this meeting. It's like, okay, let's get the community together, and we're going to talk about our food system, and everybody shows up because
Yeah.
everybody just wants to show up to an
Yeah.
event and get some free food or something and talk. Everybody likes to hear themselves talk, and so they'll sit around and talk. But they might throw out a bunch of ideas, but they want somebody else to do it. And unless you capture them, make them commit to doing something, as in set a date and time that they have committed to show up to do something before they leave the room, they're not going to continue doing anything.
Mm. So, I mean, I'm thinking, everything is really digital now. People don't want to meet up in person and
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are still out of work right now.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to, it could be worth a worthy experiment to see if, you know, uh, an initial all call sort of call to action um, webinar, or just phone conference where they can zoom in,
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, to briefly introduce the mission.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where within a 10-mile radius, everyone knows exactly what neighborhood we're in, that this is sort of real. We collect the emails and the initial interests.
Mm-hmm.
Then we shoot off, and start the email distribution list, and just have the proper funnels and the website in place with
Mm-hmm.
very clear sort of would you like to join this working group, that working
Mhm.
group?
Mhm.
How would you like to contribute?
Yeah.
Make it easy.
Yeah, it might even be easier to do this online than in person
Oh, yeah,
because it's easy for people to be wiggly in person. It's just like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that, and then they walk away, right?
and
But to
half,
actually make them put it down in writing right then and there, like actually click on the link to add their name to the list of people who are going to show up for that next meeting,
yeah,
then you've got them.
right, right. And it's a very worthy cause. I think whenever I connect with someone, whether it's it could be an immigration attorney, it could be a writer, um, uh, a news or media type or PR person. Whenever I connect under the common interests of social justice or gardening,
Hmm.
it's an immediate connection, and it's like,
Hmm.
what can we do to make this
Right.
better?
Yeah.
Like it's like when you meet a dog or a cat or animal lover, it's like you resonate on a certain frequency than somebody who's not a dog or a cat or an animal lover. So with just food, wellness, and social justice, like those three things, I think it tends to be a little sticky with as far as reaching people and having their attention. You know,
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
my
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that came up for me when you were saying that is, well, most people don't know about regenerative agriculture. They don't know how to do it. So even if you have this like army, what if they totally misunderstood what you meant by regenerative and like they don't know what's going on and they show up with a can of Miracle Grow?
yeah,
It seems like you need to do some education, you
yeah,
know,
and that's
in
going
the
to be
process of recruitment.
yeah, and that's going to be a huge part, I think, of that initial funnel, or it's the website on the when we pass out flyers, when we
Hmm.
do a Facebook ad, when we do an Instagram ad. Um, that's going to be a huge part of that initial
Hmm.
landing page
Hmm.
with a video
Hmm.
is going to explain in 20 seconds
Hmm.
who we are, where we come from, what we hope to accomplish, where we're going, and how they can help. Really simple, maybe 40 seconds. And I would love to create something that's like sort of engaging and that
Hmm.
looks really cool, kind of
Hmm.
shows the initial work. So
Hmm.
right now, that's
Hmm.
the one is gathering this
Hmm.
gathering content, and I'm
Hmm.
trying to learn the video editing
Yeah.
part, but it's not my
Yeah.
it's not so
Okay. So I'm kind of starting to get some ideas. So I just want to share kind of what's coming up for me and where I'm going with it. Like I imagine that you could have a website where you drive people to it through your ads or flyers or whatnot. They come to a landing page that has something, yeah, short and punchy about what is regenerative. You don't want to bore the people who already know about regenerative, right? And you want people to get into it right away. So you want something like really exciting and punchy to just get people excited about it. Then at the bottom of that page, at the end of the video, whatever, just have it really prominently come up. Do you want to be involved? Add your name to our mailing list. So first ask is just to get on the email list, to get on the list, right? Then the next thing right there on the screen is, do you want to watch another video about a particular subject? And then they could click on that and like maybe make them short so that people aren't getting into an hour and a half long webinar, but it's just like, do you want to learn more about regenerative gardening? So they click on that link and then it sends them to another page where they learn the basics of regenerative gardening maybe, and then at the bottom of that, sign up to come to our next volunteer day on such and such a day.
hmm
you know,
yeah.
and get them to sign up right then and there. You're going to call them, you're going to text them, you're going to email them, you're going to bug the shit out of them to get them to actually show up, right? You're going to personally invite them. I think that's important because, just like
Yeah,
putting out flyers doesn't tend to work very well today.
yeah.
Maybe it did 20 years ago, but I don't think it
There's a
works that
lot to know
well.
about it.
You got
Yeah,
to really bug people. I need to do that myself for the show.
yeah.
It's
And
hard.
in person, if people don't want to come for social distancing reasons, or traffic, or
Uh,
it's hard to get out and make those in time personal commitments. But I was thinking, even if we meet in a park for a brief demonstration and a meet and greet, we can also set up a hot spot and have like a
mhm.
little tripod with the
Yeah. Yeah.
iPad recording
Yeah,
it.
then another option could be to sign up for a live stream webinar or something like that. But yeah, to like tie content to action,
Yeah,
content, action, content, action.
And you know what? What I'm realizing though is that everybody has a role to play, from the lawyer to the maintenance worker to the teacher, to the politician,
Mm-hmm.
the laborer, um, the advocate. Everyone has really a role to play
Mm-hmm.
because, the teachers, we need help with the educational curriculum and getting this hopefully into schools and more school gardens. We want to donate seeds through schools to families, and the artists can help us with logo and design, and we need packages for those seeds. I mean, ultimately we have cute little envelopes with just a sticker on it, that funnels to the website, and we want to donate tons of seeds out to students and to families, and get people's mind going, thinking about growing food. I saw a really good idea. They had these little seed soil pucks,
Mm-hmm.
and it came with the little package of seeds just in a tiny envelope. And you just add water, it hydrates and expands. And I think it was made out of cocoa coir or something, but it was condensed. And it's just a little envelope with like some seeds, and it allows people to start their own little
Mm-hmm.
seeds and then transplant it into a garden.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it has beautiful little graphics. I can't remember what store I saw it in, and it was a bit overpriced, but I love that idea. Is as far as like, oh wow, that's all I need to start growing a little garden.
Totally. Totally. Making it easy for people to get started.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so for focusing on starting with recruiting volunteers, what you're selling is volunteer opportunities. So you're giving people enough information to get them excited, get them to sign up to contribute in some way. And by doing this, you are helping them address these issues, these pains that they have about food insecurity and poverty in their communities. So it might not be for them specifically, but they see that this is a problem in their communities, and your messaging is addressing that, and they're like, I want to get involved. So that's going to address their pain. You're also making a promise to help them increase their wellness and help them feel better and be better. And it's also going to make them feel better immediately for knowing that they're contributing. Like, it makes you feel better to sign up to do something because you're like, yeah, I'm doing something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It feels good.
It feels good. Yeah. Um,
It's a resume builder. I mean, you know,
yeah.
working in IT, if I had downtime right now and I was looking for something, well, yeah, I want to get involved, I want to do something, but I can also sharpen my skills and add to my
Mm-hmm.
resume that I
Mm-hmm.
helped a
Mm-hmm.
nonprofit, that, look at what we did, and
Totally.
so,
Totally. And then, okay, I'll add that to resume, something like that. Okay. And then the last part, and this is a big question, and we're kind of running out of time. I should probably make this section smaller because this is the second time I haven't been able to get all the way through it. Is that how can you test this? What's an initial trial that you can do on offering a volunteer opportunity in this way that would kind of test whether it works or
well, website's still in production, probably for another 2 weeks,
not? Mm-hmm.
uh, maybe 3, but we'll see. I I think really the best test that I can do is, on a smaller scale, getting something into production that people can tangibly see and taste from. And that's kind of where we are right now. We have some commitments on some lots right here in
Mm-hmm.
the community that combined would facilitate probably close to an acre of space.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I've been going, is getting the contact lists going for that, and
Mm-hmm.
and people are interested, little by little,
Yeah.
uh, and cleaning up the first lot, and then the soil and the mulch is already
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Hopefully in time for fall, I'm starting fall starts and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to have a sizable fall garden right there,
Uh-huh.
and that kind of, we'll have the website by then. We'll have the funnel, a little funnel,
Mm-hmm.
a constant contact, sign up for that or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2020 should be much bigger. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, you plan on having this all set up by the fall. I mean, I'm wondering if there's something even smaller that you could do before then to start kind of teasing out the strategy of just how the funnel is going to work. Like making a Facebook post inviting people to help you get this fall garden started.
Yeah.
And I'm just because you need a system and you need to know what your strategy is on recruiting people. So the sooner you can start kind of trying that out, the better.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe. I mean, I don't think it wouldn't take much to quickly get a test, like, funnel link set up on the website,
Mm-hmm.
and then perhaps just do like a Facebook group really quick, and maybe put out some flyers at some establishments that are, pretty well frequented right now.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, and then just start getting interest, because I've been just speaking to people and collecting emails and stuff
Mm-hmm.
on an intro class right down
Mm-hmm.
the street at a park, and that's coming together really well as
Mm-hmm.
far as the interest.
Mm-hmm.
We're just waiting on some more on a seed donation to be able to give everyone the starts and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, I just kind of encourage you to figure out what's the what's a volunteer opportunity that I'm offering right now, like showing up on a Saturday to work on this particular garden, and how can I funnel people into this specifically, like, and kind of go through the steps, and, as though you're creating a replicable system that could be, repeated in the future.
Right, right. Well, I like there's also like free seed drive, or free seed like a pop-up kind of events I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
of doing. I have an abundance of seed still left after been giving and giving it away just here in the community. Um, but uh, but it's time consuming. We repacked a lot of them into smaller envelopes, and then wrote um, the Facebook contact for
Mm-hmm.
like UrthKynd, and one for Co-op Gardens on
Mm-hmm.
there. And, but I'm gonna get stickers created for the ones that are left,
Mm-hmm.
um, and hopefully that'll also drive some traffic
Right.
and some attention, just in an immediate sort of rate.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, yeah, so you're like handing out these seeds, and then, do you know for sure that when people do follow that link that they're going to get, grabbed up and roped into this funnel? Just
Right.
setting up the steps to
Right.
make sure that it's like dominoes,
Yeah,
basically.
because if they're interested in seeds, then they must be interested in food or gardening
Yeah.
or some keyword buzzword that we
Mm-hmm.
have a common interest in.
Yeah.
So if anything, we get someone signed up for a general newsletter, they know we exist, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Totally. Okay. Okay. Um, yeah. I mean, you just said the thing that I was trying to help you avoid, which is that, just like putting something out there like seeds gets people excited, but just putting them on a list kind of like you lose that excitement, you lose that momentum, right? Whereas if you got them to go to a page on your website where they watch a video immediately, the very first thing on the page is a video, and then immediately under that video it says, click here to sign up for our next thing, then you've captured that energy
Yeah,
more.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, just like setting up something where you can test that and make sure that people, like, you can see how many people actually went to the website, you can see how many people clicked on the link, so then you start to get an idea of how effective it is, what percentage of people are you actually converting. Conversion is a marketing term of like converting from somebody who's just interested to somebody who's actually engaged. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just learned something new.
Cool.
Thank
Cool.
you. That
Thanks.
fascinates me, by the way. It's just, I really want to learn a lot more about that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is
Cool.
all, I think, really touched on a lot of digital strategy today, and the
Awesome.
importance of the digital presence. Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, I'm noticing that we're 8 minutes over time, so I'm wondering if you want to keep going for another 10 minutes or so.
I'm fine to keep. Yeah, I mean, if
Okay.
you're free, totally.
Absolutely. I'm free to keep going.
Okay.
So I have two more questions left. One is, how do you plan to deliver your products to customers? Again, like converting this to this context, it's like, so let's say somebody does click that link to sign up to show up to a volunteer activity. What are the logistics? How are you doing quality control? How are you um, guaranteeing alignment with your message and your brand?
Mhm. Well, first, I want to keep the core values at, center, um, as the main focus, and condensing that. I think that's something that we touched on before. Condensing that and condensing the mission into something that's very easy. Um, Perhaps even on that intro video, just having like, you know, the core. I just want to keep those, at the forefront of everything. So as far as like quality control, um, just the slogan, just be kind, and the B is with two E's. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, just be kind to each other and be kind to
Is it
nature.
with KYND?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
okay, okay. Be
I don't-
kind. Okay, that's kind of your tagline or something, I'd say.
Yeah, because yeah, and I don't know what I think it's just sort of a play on my dyslexia and um and kind of in essence being a true regenerative advocate and being an advocate in any sense for any purpose really is a non-conformist kind of thing, so that it kind of plays into that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so kind
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're gonna make sure that your videos and any like website and content have those core values, purpose, and tagline in them.
yeah, I just want to make sure that it, some aspect of what we do is resonates with people.
Mm-hmm.
you know
Okay. Okay. Trying to think what else. Okay. What about you? Your presence, your leadership, your image. How do you want to position that in this? Do you want people to see you as the leader? Do you want to try to remove yourself?
um not so much as a leader, more like a curator or like visionary, because
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of had this sort of vision or this dream of how I'd like to see this be accomplished for a couple of years now, just really thinking about it, but I was always, too busy to pursue it. And then just sort of with the recent, with everything that's happening with the pandemic and everything, we're seeing the food shocks and all the issues that really highlighted a lot of these issues and disparities.
Mm-hmm.
So, so yeah, I mean, more so the curator or the sort of conductor, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm not really keen on being a front and center kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
I'd more so like to empower others to be leaders in their respective like working groups
Mm-hmm.
and work together in like a decentralized sort of um, system.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
personally, um, I don't enjoy video and talking and presenting,
Mm.
but I don't know anyone else who can take sort of these experiences and this knowledge that I have, like say even with the curriculum on you know regenerative growing or regenerative health. Um, I can't pass that on to someone and tell them to do it. I don't know anyone
Mm-hmm.
else who. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of founders have this hang up where they don't want to be the center of it. They don't want to be on camera or whatnot. And, I've struggled with that as well because I don't think I have a great camera presence. Um,
I
don't
think you're doing a phenomenal job.
Thanks. Well, because I've practiced. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, it takes practice. It takes getting more comfortable with it. And people like to see a face, and they like to connect a face with something. It's a natural human tendency. So I think, recognizing that Obviously, like, not becoming too egotistical about it, and like, not necessarily totally embracing like I am the star, so much, but at least accepting that it's natural for people to want to know who's in charge of this, and giving people a little bit of what they want, just so they feel comfortable. They feel like somebody's in charge of this. It's not just this chaotic mess. I can look to somebody and be like, hey, I know you are doing this thing. Like, could I ask you a question? Could I, ask, get involved? They want to know who to turn to, in that way. And if you just completely hid yourself and just like animated everything or something, I think people would feel a little bit lost. They'd feel disconnected from it. So, I think there's kind of a balance to find. But I liked how you were saying empowering others in their working groups. So, like, how you could represent this in like a video format would to be to have you maybe initially introducing the concepts at the beginning of the video, but then to go to other people describing what they're doing for their part of it. Just have many people on the video and not just you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And then people will connect those people with that part of it. So like, this person is taking the lead on this particular garden. So if I want to be in charge, so if I want to work on that garden, I know who to talk to. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like on a map. Like a map would work probably
Yeah.
to show
And
resource.
you could do that on the website, like have different people's photos, by the description of their roles or something, so that people can connect there, and know when they show up to volunteer who's in charge. Like, it's really disconcerting when you show up to a volunteer activity and it takes you 20 minutes to figure out who's leading it.
Yeah, it should all just really flow. That's why developing just that core team of board members, or even volunteers, like that core group of like, okay, art, PR, communications, policy, um, gardeners, and then within the gardeners, like planners. Within art, you've got, just your subgroups. Maybe not even do the subgroups right now, but just someone who's really into art, who maybe has a little following, who wants to contribute some time, and so they sign up for that email. So getting the whole technical framework to facilitate all that, that's kind of where I get stuck. But I'm looking at like Google distribution lists and setting up Google for Business and all that. Like, that makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe done in Facebook too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Cool.
everything. Yeah.
So yeah, like having different people lead different parts kind of shows that, like, distributed. I don't know if you made that I don't know if we said that was one of the principles, but yeah, distributed decision making structure or whatnot, distributed leadership. If you kind of just feature that in how you deliver your programs, that would be good. And then, how does this fulfill your promise? Trying to connect this back to like helping people feel better. I mean, it feels good to me to know that I'm part of an organization that is empowering people.
Mm-hmm. How it's empowering people?
Sorry, I'm kind of talking to myself. I'm trying to figure out, like, how this way of delivering things where you're educating people and connecting them with the leaders of these different projects that are going on, these, having people join teams, how that would directly be helping people, feel better or be better, in their mind?
Um, because their efforts translate into fulfilling the mission, which is which encompasses everything that we've covered. That
Mm-hmm.
relates to the wellness,
Mm-hmm.
to wellness, and
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're helping to fulfill that mission, and also part of a thing that's empowering people. Um, yeah, I have a lot of hangups around this. Like every time that I join a new organization, one of my first questions is, how hierarchical is this? How, or not hierarchical, how chaotic is this? I'm always like wary, because most organizations are really dysfunctional, in that way. So it really helps me feel better, helps me feel grounded to know that there's a structure that is egalitarian, but still has leadership.
right.
You know what I mean? Uh, anyway, that's just me. Okay, and then how can you test this? How can you be sure that people who are showing up to volunteer are feeling better? Like follow up feedback.
Yeah, following up with them, knowing them knowing that they're appreciated, they can actually see progress with the work that they're doing. So one group may have done one task, but co- together collectively, it results into many that results into a single, like a purpose. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. So how would you follow up with people?
Um, I like the idea of, well, maybe just email blasts, or if they've given sort of permission for the text, um, maybe inviting the volunteers to special webinars. I'm trying to find incentives for people, because I think
Mhm.
a lot of times I get this question, like literally, like I've heard, well, what's in it for me?
Mhm.
Like being, people just kind of being real, and I think a lot of times people like to be rewarded for what they're doing,
Mhm.
and things that are more tangible.
Mhm.
So, um, I mean, right now we've got seeds, which we're donating them out for free. But I'm thinking, if I can get pots, then I'd be able to use the abundance of the soil that is here to make starts and
Mhm.
stuff. So, hey, free fall garden starts, or they get a discount on the plant nursery, on starts, so they get a discount on produce. Um, Things like that, for consistent volunteers. And I'd love some kind of system that like tracks involvement, because
Mhm.
it's hard to really track all that. When this if this were to become, say there's 10 people in every working group eventually or something,
Mhm. Mhm.
because there's no pressure really for commitment. It's open, so people
Yeah.
can jump in and jump out as they so
Yeah.
desire.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
being able to track that involvement would be awesome, because obviously we would want to offer bigger discounts to people who are more involved.
Yeah, I mean, you could get super, geeky with it and have some sort of a point system or something, or people show up to volunteer and they get points, and then yeah, they could use those points to buy stuff or something. Um,
Absolutely. I love the idea of people contributing in the community, like in the community. So someone who, maybe, the person who needs more help with food can maybe contribute a little more time in the garden, you
mhm.
know, doing garden tasks, harvesting and packing boxes and things in exchange for, for discounts, or, hopefully even one day paid positions, if it gets to that level.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, so some way to reward contributions.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, I mean, and I'm specifically thinking about like how do you communicate with these people then to find out if they're actually getting what they want out of it? Like, is there some sort of like exit survey after events, or some way they can give feedback?
Right. Yeah. That I love the idea, setting it up in a technical way and managing all that is a whole nother thing. I wonder if there's a simplistic way to do it.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
YouTube videos, you can ask a question. You can have a poll built into the YouTube video.
Okay. But that would mean I'd have to be on video. Okay.
Well, I'm just thinking the one aspect of your online content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I love the idea of having polls and having very open communication where the groups can have separate polls
Mm-hmm.
per group every month, or
Uh-huh.
something like that.
Oh, I wonder if you could use some sort of an app that's made for like scheduling, like Teams. Maybe it's made
Right.
for work. Like I have, hot schedules for my workplace where, I get my schedule on my phone, but they put polls in there, they put announcements in there. So you could have
Yeah.
something like that that updates people on the volunteer opportunities where they can sign up for the volunteer to show up, and it also could include polls and stuff.
Uh-huh. Did you mention a particular app that can be done in?
I mean, Hot Schedules is the one that my work uses, but I think there's probably one more specifically for volunteers, for organizations like that would probably have more of that kind of functionality where people like sign up for things, because mine's more like they're just sending me the schedule.
Right, right.
But I bet there's one where people can sign up for volunteer opportunities, and then it also has announcements and polls and stuff.
Yeah, I heard Doodly, I think, but I think that's just for schedules. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, that's more Doodle is just, yeah, sending out a link for people to schedule. But I imagine there's an app, that combines like a messaging app, a scheduling app, and like announcements and polls.
Yeah.
So yeah, I bet it's out there. Okay, that would be cool. Okay, so last thing is to come up with an elevator pitch, for your volunteer efforts. And I think I might want to leave this off for homework. This is homework to come up with, like, literally 30 to 60 seconds of, if you ran into somebody, what would you tell them about what you're doing and how they could get involved?
Oh, wow. Um, 30 seconds. Wow. So without sounding like a robot,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
finding a way to make this a lot more casual, but I would say um, organizing organizing community or organizing like-minded individuals to accomplish food resiliency in our communities and end wellness disparities. So we're focused on ending wellness disparities in our communities
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
through improving food access and education. And community organizing, of course, is a huge part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that would be the first sentence, and then you would want a couple more that would talk about like what you're working on right now, or the projects like in concrete terms, and
Right.
maybe end with an ask, end with an offer. Hey, would you like to get involved? Here's how you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can donate. You can donate time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here's what we need. Definitely. And how this flows and translates into the website. It would kind of, I'll show it to you. It's kind of like donate. But yeah, we definitely need like a volunteer page as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So yeah, we're almost half an hour over, so I don't want to take all the time to wordsmith that. But yeah, I would leave you with that as homework to come up with a few more sentences, um, for an elevator pitch, and then you could also use that as like copy on your website or something, but really conversationally, like just imagine you're saying it to somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm. Hmm. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to our one viewer. It looks like we still have one person. I saw another person pop in and pop out. It looks like, but thank you for joining us. Is there? Oh, somebody said Mama Bean. Okay, that might have been the person that was popping in and popping out. But yeah, thanks for joining us, and we will be doing this again at the same time next Sunday. And if you'd like to get more connected, you can join my Patreon at patreon.com/regenerative revolution. And you can also check out Isaiah on his Facebook at UrthKynd or Instagram. It's there on the screen. So thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.